right, folks, let's dive right into this one, because you're not going to believe where this story goes. But before we start, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or town in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories reach.
All right, Reddit, buckle up, because this one's a mess, and I still can't wrap my head around it. I, 28F, honestly thought I had left the worst chapter of my life behind me, but apparently some people just can't let things die. Spoiler alert, those people are my parents. Let me set the stage for you. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I've spent the last 2 years rebuilding my life after escaping the absolute train wreck that was my relationship with Jake, 30M. To call Jake toxic would be putting it lightly. He was manipulative, controlling, and emotionally abusive to the point where I didn't even recognize myself by the end of it. Every fight felt like walking on eggshells. Every mistake I made, even imagined ones, turned into hours of him yelling at me, and every ounce of independence I had was slowly chipped away. When I finally left him, it wasn't easy. I had to get a restraining order because he kept showing up at my apartment, sending endless messages and trying to guilt me into taking him back. It was hell, but with a lot of therapy and the support of my friends, I finally started to heal. I blocked him on everything, went no contact, and made it clear to everyone in my life that he was out for good. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone, including my parents. Here's where things get messy. My parents, bless their hearts, were never on the same page as me about Jake. They always saw him as this nice guy who just needed to work on himself. My mom especially would say things like, "He's so charming," or "He's always so polite when he's with us." I can't tell you how many times I tried to explain to them what he was really like, only to be met with, "But he never seemed that bad to us." It got to the point where I had to give them an ultimatum. Either they respect my boundaries, or I was cutting them off too. To their credit, they seemed to get it, or so I thought. For a while, they didn't bring him up, and I assumed they had finally understood how much damage he had done. I guess I was wrong. Fast forward to last week. Thanksgiving is coming up, and my mom starts blowing up my phone with texts and calls. Now, to be fair, I hadn't been home for the holidays in a couple of years. Between the strained relationship with my parents and the fact that I just didn't want to deal with all the family drama, I usually stayed in Seattle and spent the holidays with friends. But this year, my mom was relentless. She kept saying things like, "It's been so long since we've all been together, and the holidays are about family. We miss you." She even pulled the classic guilt trip. "Your dad really wants to see you. You know how much he loves having everyone together for Thanksgiving." At first, I wasn't sure. Something about the way she kept pushing felt off. But then I started to think maybe this was their way of extending an olive branch. Maybe they wanted to rebuild our relationship, and Thanksgiving would be a good starting point. Besides, I missed my dad's mashed potatoes and my mom's apple pie. Against my better judgment, I agreed to come. The whole week leading up to Thanksgiving, I had this weird feeling in my gut. I kept brushing it off, telling myself I was overthinking. I figured it was just nerves about seeing my parents after so long. I even convinced myself that things would be fine. I baked a pumpkin pie to bring with me, packed up the car, and made the 2-hour drive to their house. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked exactly the same. My dad was in the garage, probably prepping his grill because, for some reason, he insists on barbecuing for every holiday, even Thanksgiving. The house smelled like cinnamon and turkey, and for a second I actually felt a little nostalgic, like maybe this was going to be a good day. That feeling lasted about 5 minutes. As soon as I walked in, my mom greeted me with this big, exaggerated smile, like the kind of smile that screams, "I'm hiding something." She hugged me and said, "Oh, sweetie, I'm so glad you're here. I think you'll be surprised at who's here." Instantly, my stomach dropped. I asked, "What do you mean, surprised? Who's here?" But she just gave me this weird secretive look and said, "You'll see. It's a good surprise, I promise." At that moment, I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what. I followed her into the dining room, where most of the family was already gathered. My dad was carving the turkey, my aunt was setting the table, and everything seemed normal. Until I saw him. Jake. Sitting at the table like he belonged there, chatting with my dad like they were old friends. My abusive ex, the man I had spent 2 years trying to escape, sitting at my parents' Thanksgiving table. I froze. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, and I couldn't move. It was like every ounce of progress I had made, every bit of strength I had built, came crashing down in an instant. He looked up, saw me, and had the audacity to smile. "Hey, it's been a while," he said, like this was some casual, happy reunion. My mom was standing next to me, practically beaming. "Isn't this wonderful?" she said. "Jake reached out to us a few weeks ago. He's been so apologetic, and we thought it'd be a great chance for you two to reconnect." Reconnect. She actually said reconnect, as if the years of emotional abuse and manipulation were just some petty argument we needed to work through. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I put the pie down on the counter, probably harder than I needed to, and turned to my mom. "Are you kidding me?" I said, my voice shaking. "You invited him here without telling me?" My dad chimed in, trying to sound calm and reasonable, like he wasn't throwing me to the wolves. "He's been very apologetic," he said. "He wants to make things right. We thought it would be good for both of you to talk." I stared at them, completely stunned. "Good for both of us?" I said. "Do you have any idea what he put me through? How hard it was to get away from him? And you thought this was a good idea?" Jake, of course, couldn't just sit there quietly. He had to insert himself into the conversation, saying, "I've changed. I've been going to therapy. I just wanted a chance to show you that I'm not the same person anymore." I couldn't even look at him. I turned back to my parents and said, "You had no right to do this. None. I told you to cut him off. I told you what he did to me, and this is how you show your support." My mom's smile faltered, but she still tried to defend herself. "We just wanted to help," she said. "He seemed so sincere, and we thought it'd be good for the family if you could move past everything." Move past everything. Like the years of manipulation, the constant anxiety, the nights I spent crying myself to sleep, the fear that I'd never be free of him, just something to move past. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jake tried to get up and walk toward me, saying, "Please, just give me a chance to explain." I stepped back, my hands up like I was warding off a wild animal. "Stay away from me," I said, my voice firm but shaking. I looked at my parents one last time and said, "I'm leaving. And if you ever pull something like this again, I'm done. Don't call me, don't text me, nothing." My mom started to say something, but I didn't stick around to hear it. I grabbed my coat and walked out the door. As I got into my car, I heard Jake calling after me, saying, "Please, don't go." But I didn't look back. I drove away, shaking, furious, heartbroken, and completely betrayed. TLDR, my parents invited my abusive ex to Thanksgiving dinner without telling me, thinking it would be a good chance to reconnect. I walked out and haven't spoken to them since. All right, y'all, so where was I? Oh, right, in my car, speeding away from what was supposed to be a nice Thanksgiving dinner and ended up being a total nightmare. I'm still shaking just thinking about it. But trust me, the story doesn't end there. Oh no, because apparently my parents weren't done doubling down on the absolute betrayal they pulled. After I left, I spent the whole drive back to Seattle in this weird mix of rage and disbelief. I kept replaying the moment I saw Jake sitting there, smiling like he had any right to be in my space, and my parents acting like they'd done me a favor. Like, who does that? Who thinks it's okay to invite your abusive ex to dinner without telling you? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't about Jake. It was about them and their complete disregard for everything I've been through. When I got back to my apartment, I had a bunch of missed calls and texts. Most of them were from my mom, with a couple from my dad sprinkled in. I didn't even want to read them at first because I knew it would just piss me off more, but curiosity got the better of me. And oh boy, did they not disappoint. The first text was your typical, "we just wanted to help" BS. My mom wrote, "Sweetie, I'm so sorry you felt blindsided. We really thought this could be a chance for closure. Please don't be upset with us. We only did this because we care about you." Closure? You know what gives me closure? Not seeing the person who made me question my own worth for years. But sure, Mom, let's pretend you did this for me, and not because you miss Jake more than you respect your own daughter's boundaries. Then there was my dad, trying to be the voice of reason. His message said, "We know you're upset, but Jake seemed really genuine about wanting to make things right. We thought maybe this could be a fresh start for everyone. Please call us when you've calmed down." A fresh start? For who? Jake? Because I sure as hell didn't ask for one. And calm down? Oh, I was calm. Walking out of that house was me being calm. What I wanted to do was flip that damn Thanksgiving table and scream at everyone in the room, but I kept it together, so don't tell me to calm down. Then came the kicker, a text from Jake. Yep. Jake somehow got my number again, thanks Mom and Dad, and decided he needed to explain. His message said, "Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for showing up unannounced. Your parents told me you'd be okay with it, or I never would have come. I really have changed, and I just want the chance to prove it to you. I hope we can talk soon." Oh my God, the audacity. First of all, showing up unannounced. Sir, this isn't a surprise party. This is my life. Second, your parents told me you'd be okay with it. Great, so not only did my parents betray me, but they straight up lied to him too? And lastly, prove it to me. Prove what? That you're still the same manipulative asshole who thinks showing up uninvited is a good idea. I didn't reply to any of them. Not Jake, not my mom, not my dad. I put my phone on silent, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat on my couch trying to process what the hell just happened. But the thing is, ignoring them didn't make it go away. In fact, it made it worse. The next morning, my mom called me no less than 5 times before noon. When I finally picked up, mostly because I couldn't stand the sound of my phone buzzing anymore, she launched into this whole speech about how I'd overreacted and ruined Thanksgiving for everyone. Oh, you bet I lost it. I ruined Thanksgiving? I said, "Are you kidding me? You invited my abusive ex to dinner without telling me. You blindsided me and put me in a position where I didn't feel safe in my own family's home. If anyone ruined Thanksgiving, it was you." She tried to argue, of course. "We were just trying to help you move on," she said. "Jake has been so remorseful, and he really wanted to make amends. We thought it would be good for you to hear him out." "Good for me?" I snapped. "Do you even hear yourself? You thought it would be good for me to see the man who made my life hell without giving me any warning? You thought it would be helpful to ambush me like that? That's not helpful. That's cruel." She started crying at this point, which she always does when she knows she's losing an argument. "We just miss him," she said through tears. "He was such a big part of our family, and it's been hard not having him around. We thought this could be a way to bring everyone back together." And there it was, the real reason behind everything. This wasn't about me or my closure or whatever excuse they wanted to throw at me. This was about them and how much they missed Jake, the charming, funny guy who apparently mattered more to them than their own daughter's well-being. "Then maybe you should have invited him to be your kid instead," I said, my voice shaking, "because right now it feels like you care more about him than you do about me." I hung up before she could respond. I knew if I kept talking, I'd just say something even more hurtful, and despite everything, I didn't want to go there. But that was it for me. I was done. I texted them later that day and said, "I need some space. What you did was a massive betrayal, and I can't move past it right now. Please don't contact me until I reach out first." My dad replied almost immediately, saying, "We're sorry you feel that way. We were only trying to do what we thought was best." My mom didn't reply at all. As for Jake, I blocked his number again and made a note to talk to my therapist about all of this at my next session. Because, honestly, I don't know where to go from here. Do I forgive my parents for what they did? Can I even forgive them? And if I don't, what does that mean for our relationship? All I know is that I'm not ready to make those decisions yet. For now, I'm focusing on myself, the boundaries I've worked so hard to build, and the people in my life who actually respect me. TLDR, after walking out of Thanksgiving, my parents and my abusive ex bombarded me with calls and texts trying to justify their actions. I told my parents I needed space and blocked my ex again. Now I'm trying to figure out if I can ever forgive them.